So cross collaboration has been an intentional focus this year. Last year, teachers did a lot of projects independently, and we came together at the end of the year and created some focus areas where groups of teachers created action items for the staff. And particularly the ambitious instruction focus area said, after second semester, we want everyone to do their moonshot project, right, and make something with somebody else. And so you're seeing that. So this is all, the work that's being put up now is as a result of that, and really taking away the, we're not gonna judge you, we really just want you to learn from this project and see what you would take moving forward. Some people may say, like, if you went into the 9th grade class, the Little Free Libraries, right, they put 4 content area teachers together. It was a lot of work, created some interesting relationships formed, or those that had like the challenges that can't come with 4 different content areas coming together. But you know, it was like, just try it. And the stuff that's being created is really like amazing to look at. I think the questions you bring up are things that we always talk about around, well, how do we know students are getting what we want them to get? And what is it that we want them to get? Like, we know we want them to create this cool project, but what are the learning outcomes that come from each of these? How are we mapping out, so we have essential questions and enduring understandings, but in the day-to-day plans, what are each of those objectives for the day? And how do we know that every kid is meeting those, growing, right? So we question a lot around like, how do we measure growth here? The removal of, so I will say the benefit of having ePass gone and kind of this, well, what's happening with ACT, and not knowing until January that we were doing it really helped us say, okay, so this year we're not going to look at, like, we don't know what we're growing in right now because we don't have the standardized assessment. We have to really think about internally, how do we know kids are getting better? And what is it they're getting better at? And those are, like, we don't have answers for that. We're really working on those thoughts. I mean, the question about standardized testing did make me think of this one student quote. This happened like in November or December. A junior comes and says, well, so I think I'm going to transfer for the rest of the year, and then I'll come back my senior year because I need that ACT prep, right? And so suddenly it was like, how are we not explaining the connection of the work, or they're not seeing the connection of the work? We throw in the ACT prep as kind of a side note. Some junior classes are incorporating it a little bit more now that it's closer, but it's hard for all of us to see the connections. We're doing a lot with dual enrollment right now, so we focus a lot on GPAs. Kind of this idea of equity. We have kids opt into honors, opt into AP classes. So in a classroom, which again gets at this challenge of how do you know individuals are getting what they need, kids will say, I want an honors, I want this to be honors. So teachers develop challenge options and the honors assignments. So we don't have like an honors track. So GPAs are really what we're saying are access points for college. It's hard for us right now to tell if it's translating to standardized assessment because last year was the first year and we only, we don't know how to measure it on a standardized assessment right now. But I will say we have 16 juniors and 15 seniors right now that are doing dual enrollment. So that whole idea of are they prepared for college, in doing it in high school is just given them the confidence of like first being so proud of themselves for doing, can I wear my college ID to school today? And just say, I'm in college, ask me about college. They're just great phrases kids are using, and it really is like, oh my gosh, my professor is making us create a business plan with 3 other people. I know more than my 20-year-old partner, right? But then we also get, oh my gosh, I just bombed my first essay or my first test now what do I do? Or like, my teacher hasn't given me any grades back. I don't know what my grades are. I don't know how I'm doing. You know, that's just reality of college, and how they advocate for themselves. How are they able to overcome those challenges they're going to encounter and not give up, I think is kind of what our message is. I mean, what's interesting are all your wonders are things that we're talking about a lot, because we also, they're all like, how do the problems our kids are addressing in their classrooms really translate to like outcomes that are going to be measured, right? So as a school that was under a conditional 1-year renewal last year and given a 3-year, we're still like, okay, so in 2 years from now, they're gonna be looking at data from this year and next year to tell us how we're doing, right? So we can't ignore those facts. However, we really are believing that the work they're creating, the pride they get, the showcasing of the work translates to them just wanting to be here more, wanting to work harder. But how do you measure it is always the question.
And I would add too, the idea of like how you measure it for all students is really important too. It's very easy to get wrapped up. Like, I have kids that have talked about that are like, I teach juniors, and so juniors this year and current seniors that I taught last year will say things like, oh, we used to do 5-week interim assessments. Every 5 weeks they had a test. And I've had kids actually say the exact same thing I felt, was like, oh, well, I failed the test, I'm moving on to something new. Or like, I learned it, I did really well on the test, but I didn't need it anymore, and now I actually have to learn it. Like, I had kids complain about project-based learning and said, now I have to actually know it in order to do the project. But it's easy to get wrapped up, I think, sometimes in some of those reflections and not know if you're hearing from all the kids. So that's a big wonder for me going forward.
Is there a certain, are there certain criteria that you're going to be evaluating? I'm sure there are.
Same SQRP.
Oh,
We use the same. I mean, we get measured from the district using the same.
So you don't have the external, so the district gives you the contract and not any external.
Right, yeah.
So it's something about assessment, there's some assessment component, there's attendance, there's